Millionaire finds 3 abandoned babies in front of his restaurant, but when he approaches, he notices a detail that upon reading changed his life forever. Subscribe to the channel to follow more exciting stories like this one. The rain poured relentlessly over London's cobblestone streets as Marcus Wellington hurried toward the Golden Spoon, his flagship restaurant in Mayfair. The prestigious establishment had been in his family for 3 generations, and now, at 38, Marcus had transformed it into the cornerstone of his culinary empire, with 15 restaurants scattered across the United Kingdom. Despite his success, Marcus maintained a hands-on approach, personally checking on his restaurants several times a week. Tonight was different, though. Head chef Thomas had called about a persistent issue with the new kitchen equipment, and Marcus had promised to stop by after hours to assess the situation. The street lamps cast a warm glow through the misty evening as Marcus approached the restaurant's service entrance. He fumbled with his keys, the rain dampening his expertly tailored suit, when an unusual sound caught his attention. At first, he dismissed it as the wind, but then he heard it again, a distinct mewling that seemed to come from behind the restaurant's waste bins. Marcus hesitated. In all his years in the restaurant business, he'd learned to be cautious about investigating strange noises in dark alleys, but something about this sound tugged at his conscience. He pulled out his phone's flashlight and carefully made his way toward the source. What he discovered nearly made him drop his phone. There, sheltered beneath a makeshift cardboard covering, were 3 tiny babies, all seemingly newborn, huddled together for warmth. More remarkably, a large ginger cat sat protectively beside them, its yellow eyes gleaming in the flashlight's beam. The cat had somehow managed to arrange itself so that its body provided additional warmth to the infants. "Dear God," Marcus whispered, his hands trembling as he dialed emergency services. While waiting for their arrival, he carefully lifted the cardboard to better shield the babies from the rain. The cat watched his every move but didn't protest, as if understanding his intention to help. Marcus's wife, Victoria, arrived before the ambulance, having rushed over after his frantic call. A former pediatric nurse, Victoria immediately took charge of the situation, checking the baby's vital signs with professional efficiency, despite her obvious emotional response to the situation. "They're cold, but their color is good," she reported, her voice steady despite the tears in her eyes. "They can't be more than a few days old, Marcus. They're girls, all 3 of them." The following hours passed in a blur of police statements, hospital visits, and endless questions. The babies were taken to the nearest hospital, where they were thoroughly examined and declared healthy despite their ordeal. Victoria insisted on staying with them, her medical background proving invaluable in discussions with the hospital staff. Marcus found himself unable to leave as well, his mind racing with questions about who would abandon 3 beautiful baby girls on such a cold night. The ginger cat, which had followed them to the hospital and refused to leave, now sat contentedly in the waiting room, accepting occasional strokes from passing nurses. As dawn approached, Marcus and Victoria sat in the hospital cafeteria, both exhausted but unable to rest. Victoria's hand trembled slightly as she held her coffee cup, her eyes distant with thought. "We can't let them go into the system, Marcus," she said suddenly, her voice barely above a whisper. "You know what happens to siblings in foster care? They'll be separated." Marcus looked at his wife of 15 years, reading the emotions playing across her face. They had tried for children early in their marriage, but after years of disappointment and heartbreak, they had accepted their childless fate. Now fate seemed to have other plans. "Vic," he began carefully, "are you suggesting what I think you're suggesting?" She met his gaze, her green eyes filled with determination. "We have the means, the space, and most importantly, the love to give. Those girls were left at your restaurant for a reason, Marcus. Maybe this is our chance to have the family we've always dreamed of." The weight of the decision pressed heavily on Marcus's shoulders. Running a restaurant empire was one thing, but raising 3 newborn girls. Yet, as he thought about those tiny faces, something shifted in his heart. The protective instinct he'd felt upon finding them grew stronger. "It won't be easy," he cautioned, though he could feel his resistance crumbling under Victoria's hopeful gaze. 3 babies at once. It's a massive responsibility." "Nothing worth doing is ever easy," Victoria replied, reaching across the table to take his hand. "But we can do this, Marcus. Together." As the first rays of sunlight began to filter through the hospital windows, Marcus and Victoria Wellington made a decision that would forever change their lives. They would fight to keep these three little girls together, to give them a home filled with love and security. The ginger cat, which had somehow managed to follow them into the cafeteria despite hospital regulations, purred contentedly at their feet as if approving their choice. Little did they know this was just the beginning of an extraordinary journey that would challenge everything they thought they knew about family, love, and the power of unexpected discoveries. The next few days passed in a whirlwind of activity as Marcus and Victoria threw themselves into preparing for their sudden transition into parenthood. Their spacious Kensington townhouse, once a showcase of elegant minimalism, transformed into a flurry of baby-related chaos. 3 identical cribs appeared in what had been Victoria's home office, while the guest room metamorphosed into a changing station, complete with everything needed for newborn triplets. Marcus found himself navigating the unfamiliar aisles of baby stores, his usual confidence in business decisions completely useless when faced with the overwhelming variety of diapers, formula, and baby clothes. He had to video call Victoria more than once to ensure he was selecting the right items. "No, darling, the newborn size," Victoria patiently explained during one such call, while simultaneously coordinating with their lawyer about the emergency foster care application. "And get the sensitive skin wipes. We don't know if they have any allergies yet." The legal process moved surprisingly quickly, thanks to their resources and Victoria's impeccable background in childcare. Their social worker, Mrs. Thompson, seemed particularly moved by their determination to keep the sisters together. The fact that the babies had been left at Marcus's restaurant, combined with their ability to provide a stable home, worked in their favor. The girls, temporarily named Hope, Faith, and Grace by the hospital staff, were thriving despite their rough start. Victoria's medical background proved invaluable as she established a feeding and care schedule that somehow managed to give each baby the individual attention they needed while maintaining their sanity. The ginger cat, whom they'd named Guardian, had somehow become a permanent fixture in their household. After being checked by a vet and given a clean bill of health, he appointed himself as the girls' personal watchman, moving between their cribs with careful attention and alerting Victoria or Marcus at the first sign of any distress. One evening, about a week after finding the babies, Marcus returned home from a day of handling restaurant business to find Victoria in tears on the sofa. His heart stopped for a moment until he realized they were happy tears. "Faith smiled at me today," she explained, wiping her eyes. "A real smile, not just gas." And then Hope started cooing and Grace joined in like they were having a conversation. "Oh, Marcus, I know it's too early for real smiles, but I swear it happened." Marcus sat beside her, pulling her close. "Of course it happened. They know they're loved." He paused, then added, "I've been thinking about their names. Perhaps we should choose new ones, something that connects them to us while honoring their story." Victoria nodded thoughtfully. "I've been thinking about that too. What about Rose, Lily, and Violet? They were found in spring, surrounded by the flowers in the restaurant's garden boxes. And flowers represent new beginnings, Hope." "They're perfect," Marcus agreed, just as Guardian let out a demanding meow from the nursery, signaling that at least one of the girls was awakening from their nap. As they headed upstairs together, they passed the wall where Victoria had already hung photographs documenting their unusual journey into parenthood. There was a picture of the restaurant on the night they found the girls, Guardian sitting regally in the foreground. Another showed their first day home, all 3 girls sleeping peacefully in their new cribs. Marcus had even included a shot of his first diaper-changing attempt, which had ended with him wearing more baby powder than the baby. The investigation into the girls' background was ongoing, but Marcus and Victoria had made a pact to be completely open with their daughters about their origins when the time came. Victoria had already started 3 memory books, carefully documenting every detail of their arrival and first days together. "I want them to know they were chosen," she had explained, while pasting in hospital bracelets and first photos. "That they came to us in an unusual way, but that doesn't make them any less our daughters." As they entered the nursery, they found little Hope, soon to be Rose, wide awake and gurgling happily at Guardian, who sat beside her crib, with his tail wrapped neatly around his paws. Faith and Grace slept on, their tiny fingers occasionally twitching in their dreams. Victoria lifted Rose gently, expertly checking her diaper while simultaneously nuzzling her soft baby hair. Marcus watched them, still amazed by how natural his wife looked in this role she'd waited so long to fill. "I need to tell you something," he said quietly, mindful of the sleeping babies. "I've decided to take a step back from direct restaurant management for a while. I've promoted Thomas to executive chef and Sarah to operations director. They can handle the day-to-day while I focus on our family." Victoria looked up, surprised. "But the restaurants are your life's work." "No," Marcus corrected gently, reaching out to stroke Rose's cheek. "This is my life's work. Right here. These girls, you, this family we're building. The restaurants can run without me for a while, but our daughters need their father." As if in agreement, Rose let out a happy squeal, causing her sisters to stir. Soon all three babies were awake and demanding attention, filling the room with their unique personalities, even at such a young age. Guardian moved between the cribs, supervising as Marcus and Victoria settled into their new routine of feedings and changes. Outside, the spring rain that had brought these precious gifts to their doorstep continued to fall softly, nurturing the flowers that would soon become their daughters' namesakes. As spring melted into summer, the Wellington household settled into a rhythm that, while exhausting, brought its own kind of joy. The girls, now officially named Rose, Lily, and Violet Wellington, were thriving under their parents' devoted care. However, the world beyond their loving home began to take notice of the unusual family situation. The first hints of judgment came during a routine visit to the pediatrician. Victoria overheard two nurses whispering in the corridor, their words sharp with speculation, about how a wealthy couple had suddenly acquired 3 identical babies. The rumors spread through London's elite social circles, where Marcus and Victoria had once been fixtures at charity galas and restaurant openings. "Did you see how they're dressing those poor things in designer clothes?" Victoria overheard at her favorite coffee shop. As if they're dolls to show off rather than children. Marcus faced his own challenges at a restaurant industry meeting, where a competitor made a snide remark about buying instant families. The comment made his blood boil, but he maintained his composure, remembering Victoria's words about setting an example for their daughters. It was during this time that Detective Inspector Sarah Matthews arrived at their door one evening, carrying a thick folder and a sympathetic expression. Guardian, ever vigilant, watched from his perch on the stairs as the detective shared what her investigation had uncovered. Her name was Eleanor Wright, Detective Matthews explained, showing them a photograph of a young woman with the same striking blue eyes as the triplets. "She lived in a flat just 3 streets away from your restaurant. We found her diary." The story that emerged was both heartbreaking and illuminating. Eleanor had been a brilliant botanical researcher, working on breakthrough studies in plant genetics. She'd hidden her pregnancy from everyone, continuing her work from home. Her diary revealed a woman determined to give her daughters a better life than she could provide. "The last entry," Detective Matthews said softly, "was written the day the girls were found. She knew she was very ill, but refused to seek help until she found the right place for her babies. She wrote about seeing your restaurant, Mr. Wellington, about watching how you treated your staff like family. She wrote that she knew her daughters would be safe there." Victoria clutched Marcus's hand as they absorbed this information. Upstairs, they could hear the gentle sounds of their daughters sleeping, monitored by the baby cameras they'd installed. "There's more," the detective continued. "Eleanor left a substantial trust fund for the girls, funded by her research patents. She'd planned this carefully, wanting to ensure they would have resources for their future. She also left this. She handed them a sealed envelope, addressed simply, 'To my daughter's new family.'" Later that night, after the detective left, Marcus and Victoria sat in the nursery, watching their sleeping daughters while they read Eleanor's letter together. The words were filled with love, hope, and a mother's final wish for her children to be raised together in a home filled with love. "She knew she was dying," Victoria whispered, tears streaming down her face. "She chose us, Marcus. She actually chose us." Marcus pulled his wife close, his own eyes misting as he watched Rose stretch in her sleep, her tiny hand reaching out to touch Lily's crib through the slats. The sisters, even in sleep, seemed to seek each other out. "We need to preserve everything," Victoria said suddenly, wiping her eyes. "The letter, her photograph, her story. The girls deserve to know how much their birth mother loved them, how she fought to give them their best chance. "We'll create a special place for Eleanor in their lives," Marcus agreed. "She'll never be a secret or a shame. She'll be part of their story, part of what makes our family unique." Guardian jumped onto the window seat, his purring a soothing backdrop to their conversation. Outside, the summer evening was alive with the sounds of London, but inside the nursery, time seemed to stand still as Marcus and Victoria began planning how to honor Eleanor's memory while building their future as a family. Victoria pulled out the memory book she'd been keeping for each girl, carefully adding Eleanor's photograph and making notes about what they'd learned. "We'll tell them when they're old enough to understand," she said. "About their mother's bravery, about how love can take different forms but still be just as strong." Marcus watched his wife working, her attention to detail, ensuring that their daughters would have a clear picture of their origins. He thought about Eleanor, a brilliant woman who had made the ultimate sacrifice for her children's future. The responsibility of honoring her choice felt even more profound now. As if sensing the emotional weight of the moment, Violet began to stir, her small whimpers quickly turning into demands for attention. Victoria moved to lift her, but Marcus got there first, cradling his daughter with a gentleness that still surprised him. "Hello, my brave girl," he whispered, thinking of the courage that ran in her veins from both her mothers. "You have such an amazing story to learn one day." The revelation about Eleanor Wright brought both closure and new challenges to the Wellington family. As autumn approached, Marcus and Victoria faced the delicate balance of honoring their daughter's biological mother while establishing their own parental bonds. The girls, now 5 months old, were developing distinct personalities that delighted and sometimes overwhelmed their parents. Rose, the first to smile, proved to be the most vocal of the three, her happy squeals echoing through the house at all hours. Lily was the observer, watching everything with serious concentration that reminded Victoria of Eleanor's scientific mind. Violet, the smallest but most determined, had already mastered rolling over, much to Guardian's apparent concern. The first real test of their parenting abilities came when both Lily and Violet developed high fevers within hours of each other. Victoria's medical training warred with her maternal instincts as she watched her daughters struggle with their first illness. "Their temperature isn't dangerously high," she explained to Marcus, who was pacing the nursery at 3 in the morning. "But we should monitor them closely." Guardian had positioned himself between the two cribs, occasionally pawing at Victoria when either girl seemed particularly distressed. The next 48 hours tested their endurance and commitment. Marcus cancelled all his business appointments, working from home while helping Victoria care for the sick babies. Rose, seemingly immune to whatever had affected her sisters, continued her cheerful babbling, providing much-needed moments of joy during the stressful time. Their pediatrician, Dr. Chen, made a house call, her kind manner helping to ease their fears. "This is actually quite normal," she assured them. "Twins and triplets often get ill together, but they also tend to recover together." "You're doing everything right." Victoria couldn't help but wonder if Eleanor had faced similar challenges alone. The thought of the girl's biological mother dealing with 3 newborns without support made her even more determined to be the best mother possible to these precious children. The fever crisis also brought unexpected support from their community. Sarah, Marcus's operations director, organized meal deliveries from the restaurants, ensuring the parents didn't have to worry about cooking. Their elderly neighbor, Mrs. Blackwood, who had initially been one of the most vocal critics of their sudden family, appeared at their door with homemade chicken soup and practical advice from raising her own twins 40 years ago. "Babies can sense love," Mrs. Blackwood declared, watching Victoria soothe Violet. "And these little ones are swimming in it." Eleanor chose well. As the girls recovered, Marcus and Victoria began to feel more confident in their parenting abilities. They developed systems for handling the daily challenges of raising triplets, from color-coding bottles to creating detailed schedules that allowed them to give each daughter individual attention. One evening, as they sat in the garden watching the girls enjoy their tummy time on a blanket, Victoria brought up something that had been weighing on her mind. "I've been thinking about returning to nursing part-time," she said carefully. "Not now, but maybe when the girls are a bit older. Being their mother is the most important thing in my life, but helping other children was always my calling too." Marcus watched as Guardian supervised the girls' attempts to reach the toys scattered around them. "I think that's wonderful," he said. "You have so much to offer, both as a mother and a nurse." We'll make it work. The conversation was interrupted by a collective giggle from the triplets as Guardian gently batted a soft ball between them, his tail held high like a proud flag. The sound of their laughter, so pure and joyful, reminded Marcus and Victoria of how far they'd come from that rainy night at the restaurant. The following weekend, they organized a small gathering in their garden to celebrate the girls' half-birthday. Close friends and family members who had supported them from the beginning came to celebrate, bringing gifts and well wishes. During the party, Victoria noticed Marcus standing slightly apart from the group, watching their daughters being cooed over by the guests. She joined him, slipping her hand into his. "Penny, for your thoughts?" "I was just thinking about how complete everything feels now," he replied. "The restaurants, they were my dream for so long. But this," he gestured to their home, their daughters, their life together, "this is beyond anything I could have dreamed." Victoria understood exactly what he meant. The challenges they faced were real and sometimes overwhelming, but the joy their unusual family brought made everything worthwhile. As she watched Guardian herding the guests away from his charges whenever he decided they'd had enough attention, she smiled at the unique ways love could manifest itself. The memory books were growing thick with photographs, notes, and mementos. Each girl's book now included not only their daily milestones, but also carefully preserved details about Eleanor and the circumstances that had brought them together. Victoria had started writing letters to their daughters, to be read when they were older, explaining how love could multiply rather than divide when hearts were open to it. As the triplets approached their first birthday, the Wellington household had evolved into a well-orchestrated symphony of chaos and love. The girls were now crawling with determined energy, transforming their carefully baby-proofed home into an obstacle course of exploration and discovery. Guardian, ever faithful, had adapted his protective duties to include herding the mobile infants away from potential dangers. Rose had developed a fascination with music, bouncing enthusiastically whenever Marcus played classical pieces on the grand piano in their living room. Lily showed an early interest in books, contentedly flipping pages of board books while making thoughtful, babbling sounds. Violet had become the family's little adventurer, constantly finding new ways to challenge the baby gates and protective barriers. Victoria's decision to honor Eleanor's memory took a significant step forward when she transformed a corner of the nursery into what she called the memory garden. Here she displayed Eleanor's photograph alongside pressed flowers from the restaurant's garden where the girls were found. She'd also framed pages from Eleanor's research journals, the complex botanical diagrams a testament to their biological mother's brilliant mind. "I want them to grow up seeing her as part of their story," Victoria explained to Marcus one evening as they watched the girls play. "Not as a sad chapter, but as another source of the love that surrounds them." The approach of their first birthday brought new challenges and considerations. Marcus and Victoria debated how to handle the celebrations, aware of the public interest their unique family still generated. They eventually decided on two celebrations: a small intimate family gathering on the actual day, and a larger party at the Golden Spoon for their extended circle of friends and supporters. During the preparation for the celebrations, Victoria discovered something remarkable while organizing the girls' medical records. Dr. Chen had noted that all three girls shared a rare but beneficial genetic trait that made them exceptionally resistant to certain illnesses. This trait, Victoria learned through research, was connected to Eleanor's botanical work. She had been studying plant immunities when she became pregnant. "It's like she gave them one final gift," Victoria marveled to Marcus. "Her brilliant mind lives on in them in the most unexpected ways." The discovery led to a deeper appreciation of Eleanor's legacy. Marcus commissioned a small greenhouse to be built in their garden, planning to introduce the girls to the world of plants and science as they grew older. He imagined future afternoons spent teaching them about growth and nurturing, connecting them to both their botanical heritage and the restaurant's farm-to-table philosophy. The private birthday celebration was everything they had hoped for. The girls, dressed in complementary but distinct outfits, showed their developing personalities as they encountered their first birthday cake. Rose dove in with enthusiasm, creating a masterpiece of frosting art on her face and high chair. Lily methodically deconstructed her slice, seemingly fascinated by its layers. Violet, after careful observation of her sisters, found a hybrid approach that somehow left her cleaner than either of them. Guardian, who had his own tiny party hat, though he tolerated it with clear feline disapproval, supervised the proceedings from his perch on the window seat. He had long since become more than just a pet. He was the girl's constant companion and unofficial fourth sibling. During the party at the Golden Spoon, something unexpected happened that touched Marcus and Victoria deeply. The restaurant staff had prepared a special presentation, showing how the discovery of the triplets had transformed not just the Wellington family, but the entire restaurant community. Thomas, now executive chef, spoke about how the restaurant had become more family-friendly without losing its elegant atmosphere. Sarah shared how their hiring practices had evolved to better support working parents. Even Mrs. Blackwood, who had become a regular at family nights, spoke about how the community had grown stronger through supporting the unusual circumstances of the triplets' arrival. As Victoria watched her daughters charm the gathered crowd, each in their own way, she felt a profound sense of rightness. The girls were thriving not despite their unique situation but because of it. They were surrounded by love from every direction: their parents, their extended restaurant family, their protective guardian, and the lasting legacy of their biological mother. That night, after the celebrations had ended and the girls were finally asleep, Marcus and Victoria sat in their garden, enjoying a rare moment of quiet. The greenhouse construction was scheduled to begin the following week, its plans including a special section where each girl would have her own small plot to tend as she grew older. "Do you ever wonder what Eleanor would think of all this?" Marcus asked softly, looking up at the stars. Victoria smiled, thinking of the three sleeping girls upstairs, each so different, yet so perfectly connected. "I think she knew exactly what she was doing when she chose your restaurant that night. She gave us the greatest gift possible, the chance to be parents to three extraordinary girls." Guardian appeared silently beside them, as he often did in quiet moments. He settled between their chairs, his presence a reminder of that rainy night that had changed everything. Above them, the stars continued their eternal dance, witnesses to the incredible journey of love, loss, and redemption that had brought them all together. The autumn following the girls' first birthday brought a cascade of milestones that kept Marcus and Victoria constantly amazed. The most significant development began one morning when Rose, watching Marcus prepare breakfast, clearly said, "Papa." The word hung in the air for a moment before chaos erupted. Victoria rushing for the baby book, Marcus nearly dropping the porridge spoon, and Guardian offering an approving meow. Within days, Lily and Violet had followed their sister's lead, though each with their own preferred first word. Lily, true to her thoughtful nature, chose book as her debut into spoken language. Violet, watching Guardian patrol the nursery, surprised everyone by managing a clear cat while reaching for her faithful protector. The girls' expanding vocabularies brought both joy and unexpected emotional complexity to the Wellington household. Victoria found herself holding her breath the first time one of them said "Mama," the word carrying layers of meaning in their unique family situation. She had long since come to terms with her role as the girl's mother, but moments like these reminded her of Eleanor's sacrifice. Marcus noticed his wife's quiet contemplation and suggested they start a new tradition. Together, they began recording video messages for each girl, sharing stories about both their biological mother and their journey to becoming a family. These recordings would join the memory books, providing a rich tapestry of their history for the girls to explore when they were older. "Eleanor gave them life," Victoria said while recording one evening, "but she also gave me the chance to be a mother. Both things can be true, and both are worthy of celebration." The girls' physical development continued to amaze and challenge their parents. They had mastered walking, turning the house into what Marcus jokingly called the Wellington Grand Prix. Guardian adapted to his new role as mobile safety supervisor, somehow managing to be wherever he was needed most, preventing countless bumps and tumbles with strategic positioning of his furry bulk. It was during this time that Victoria decided to take her first steps back into nursing, accepting a part-time position at a pediatric clinic 2 mornings a week. The decision was made easier by Marcus's mother, Elizabeth, offering to help with childcare. Elizabeth, who had initially been uncertain about the sudden adoption, had fallen completely in love with her granddaughters and proved to be an invaluable support system. The transition wasn't without its challenges. The first morning Victoria left for work, All three girls cried, Guardian paced anxiously, and Marcus felt completely overwhelmed. But by the time Victoria returned home, she found a heartwarming scene. Marcus and Elizabeth had organized an impromptu music session, with the girls bouncing and clapping while Marcus played nursery rhymes on the piano. "They've been perfect angels," Elizabeth assured Victoria, though the slightly frazzled look in her eyes suggested otherwise. And watching Marcus handle 3 toddlers has been educational. The girls' distinct personalities continued to develop, influenced by both nature and nurture. Rose showed an early talent for mimicking the classical music Marcus played, humming complex melodies with surprising accuracy. Lily's love of books expanded to include a fascination with the pressed flowers in the memory garden, often pointing to Eleanor's photograph while saying, "flower." Violet's adventurous spirit led her to attempt scaling the greenhouse construction site, requiring additional safety measures and constant vigilance. One particularly memorable afternoon, the family received an unexpected visit from Detective Matthews, who had kept in loose contact since solving the mystery of the girl's origin. She brought with her a collection of Eleanor's research papers that had been cleared from evidence storage. "I thought you might want these for the girls," she explained, watching as the triplets played in their new activity corner. Eleanor's work was quite revolutionary. She was studying how plants communicate and protect each other, especially in family groups. Rather fitting, don't you think? Victoria carefully examined the papers, noting Eleanor's precise handwriting and detailed diagrams. "These will be perfect for the greenhouse library," she said, already imagining future afternoons spent teaching the girls about their biological mother's work. The greenhouse project had evolved beyond its original scope, becoming a living memorial to Eleanor's legacy. Marcus had incorporated elements from her research, creating special sections for the plant species she had studied. The structure would serve as both an educational space for the girls and a reminder of the brilliant woman who had entrusted them with her most precious gifts. As winter approached, the Wellington family settled into their new routines. Victoria's return to nursing brought fresh energy to her parenting, while Marcus found himself developing new recipes, inspired by watching his daughters discover different tastes and textures. Guardian maintained his vigilant watch over his growing charges, though he now required occasional breaks in his favorite sunspot by the greenhouse windows. The girls' vocabulary continued to expand, sometimes in surprising ways. They developed their own twin-like language, communicating with each other through a combination of real words and invented ones that only they seemed to understand. Their bond grew stronger daily, yet each maintained her unique identity, a balance that delighted their parents while challenging their caregiving abilities. One evening, as Marcus and Victoria watched the girls playing in their new fairy-lit reading corner, surrounded by books and stuffed animals with Guardian dozing nearby, they reflected on how far they'd come from that rainy night at the restaurant. "We're not just raising children," Marcus observed, watching Lily share her favorite book with her sisters. "We're nurturing a legacy. Eleanor's scientific brilliance, our love for food and community, and whatever unique gifts the girls will discover in themselves." Victoria nodded, her heart full as she watched Rose attempt to teach Violet a new song, complete with enthusiastic hand gestures. "They're teaching us as much as we're teaching them," she said softly, "about love, resilience, and the true meaning of family." As the Wellington triplets approached their 2nd birthday, the greenhouse finally stood complete in the garden, its glass panels gleaming in the spring sunshine. Marcus had designed it to be both beautiful and functional, incorporating elements from Eleanor's research papers into its structure. The central area housed 3 small gardening stations, each customized for a toddler's height and adorned with the girls' names in colorful letters. The greenhouse's completion coincided with an important milestone in Victoria's career. The pediatric clinic where she worked part-time had offered her a position developing a new program for supporting families with multiple births. Her experiences with the triplets, combined with her medical background, made her uniquely qualified for the role. "It's like everything is coming full circle," she told Marcus one evening as they watched the girls exploring their new greenhouse space. "Eleanor's research, our family's story, my nursing, it's all connecting in ways I never expected." The girls, now sturdy toddlers with distinct preferences and personalities, had taken to the greenhouse with varying degrees of enthusiasm. Rose loved the sensory garden, where herbs released their fragrances with every touch. Lily was fascinated by the wall of pressed flowers from Eleanor's collection, often standing before it in quiet contemplation. Violet had already attempted to climb several of the support structures, leading to some hasty child-proofing modifications. Guardian, older now but no less vigilant, had claimed a sunny spot near the entrance as his new observation post. From there, he could monitor all three girls while enjoying the warmth of the greenhouse. His presence had become so integral to the family that the architects had included a custom cat door in the greenhouse design. One remarkable spring morning, something extraordinary happened that touched both Marcus and Victoria deeply. Lily, standing before Eleanor's photograph in the memory garden corner, pointed and clearly said, "Other mummy." The words, spoken with a toddler's innocent clarity, brought tears to Victoria's eyes. They had always been open with the girls about Eleanor, showing them her picture and speaking of her with love and respect. But this was the first clear indication that the children were beginning to understand their unique family story. That evening, after the girls were asleep, Victoria added a new entry to each of their memory books. "Today," she wrote, "you began to understand that love can come from many sources, and that your family story is special and beautiful." The greenhouse quickly became the heart of family activities. Marcus started teaching the girls about different herbs and vegetables, incorporating simple cooking lessons that delighted Rose particularly. Victoria used the space for quiet reading sessions with Lily, while Violet treated the paths between plants as her personal obstacle course. During one such afternoon, Mrs. Blackwood visited with her grandchildren, who were close in age to the triplets. Watching the children play together, she remarked to Victoria, "It's remarkable how they're so clearly sisters, yet each one is her own person, rather like plants in a garden, same soil, same care, but each growing uniquely." The comparison struck Victoria as particularly apt. The girls, like the plants they were learning to tend, thrived through a combination of nature and nurture. Eleanor's scientific legacy lived on not just in their DNA, but in their curious approaches to the world around them. Marcus found himself incorporating more family-friendly elements into his restaurants, inspired by watching his daughters discover new tastes and textures. The Golden Spoon now hosted monthly Little Chefs sessions, where young children could learn about food in a safe, supervised environment. As spring progressed, the greenhouse flourished under the family's care. Each girl had planted her own special flower, chosen from Eleanor's research papers. Rose selected a vibrant snapdragon, Lily chose a delicate primrose, and Violet, true to her adventurous nature, picked a climbing morning glory. Guardian took his greenhouse duties seriously, somehow managing to keep watch over 3 active toddlers while maintaining his dignified demeanor. He seemed particularly protective of the girls' individual garden plots, often positioning himself strategically to prevent any overly enthusiastic helping between sisters. The greenhouse also became a place of healing and connection. Victoria noticed that whenever one of the girls was upset or overwhelmed, they would often seek out the peaceful environment among the plants. It was as if Eleanor's scientific spirit provided a calm sanctuary for her daughters. One day, while the girls napped after an exciting morning of planting seeds, Marcus found Victoria sitting in the greenhouse, surrounded by Eleanor's research papers and their daughter's garden tools. "I've been thinking," she said, looking up at him with tears in her eyes, "about how Eleanor would feel seeing them here, learning about the natural world she loves so much. I think she'd be proud, don't you?" Marcus sat beside her, taking her hand. "She chose us because she knew we would honor both their past and their future. Every time the girls discover something new in this greenhouse, every time they ask questions about the plants or show interest in how things grow, that's Eleanor's legacy living on through them." As if to emphasize his words, Guardian appeared with his characteristic silent grace, carrying a small flower that had fallen from one of the girls' plants. He placed it carefully on Eleanor's photograph, which sat in its special place of honor among the growing things she had loved so much. The approach of the girls' 3rd birthday brought new adventures and challenges to the Wellington household. The triplets had developed into chatty, energetic preschoolers, each with her own distinctive way of approaching the world. Their verbal skills had exploded, leading to endless questions and increasingly complex conversations that often left their parents both amazed and exhausted. Victoria's program at the clinic had become so successful that she was asked to present her findings at a national conference on pediatric care. The preparation for this event coincided with an exciting development at the Golden Spoon. Marcus had been approached about hosting a television segment featuring family-friendly cooking demonstrations. "It's not just about the cooking," he explained to Victoria one evening as they watched the girls playing in their new art corner. "It's about showing how food brings families together, how it can be part of creating memories and traditions." The girls had their own opinions about their parents' projects. Rose was particularly excited about the television possibility, already showing signs of being comfortable in the spotlight. Lily asked thoughtful questions about Victoria's work with other families, while Violet seemed most interested in the potential for new adventures that these changes might bring. Guardian, now a distinguished elderly cat but still devoted to his charges, had adjusted his protective duties to account for 3 increasingly independent young girls. He had developed an almost supernatural ability to appear whenever one of them was about to attempt something particularly risky. The television producers were initially hesitant about featuring the triplets in Marcus's cooking segments, concerned about managing 3 preschoolers on camera. However, during a test filming session, they were charmed by the natural way the family worked together in the kitchen. Rose proved to be a natural performer, happily explaining her special mixing technique to the camera. Lily approached each cooking task with scientific precision, carefully measuring ingredients, just as she had learned in the greenhouse. Violet added unexpected comedy to the proceedings, her adventurous spirit leading to some memorable mishaps that the producers loved. "They're naturals," the director declared after watching the test footage. "The way they interact with each other and with Marcus, it's genuine and heartwarming. This is exactly what family cooking should look like." Victoria's conference presentation included anonymous case studies from her multiple birth support program, but her own experience with the triplets provided the emotional core of her work. She had developed new protocols for helping families cope with the unique challenges of raising multiple children while celebrating their individual development. One evening, as the family worked together in their greenhouse, Rose asked a question that caught both parents off guard. "Mummy, why did other Mummy give us to you and Papa?" Victoria and Marcus had been preparing for questions like this, but the reality of answering them was more emotional than they had anticipated. They gathered all 3 girls for a special conversation in their favorite spot among the plants Eleanor had loved. "Your other Mummy was very smart and very brave," Victoria began, showing them Eleanor's photograph. "She loved you so much that she wanted to make sure you would always be together and always be taken care of. She chose Papa and me to be your parents because she knew we would love you just as much as she did." "Like when we give the plants extra water because we love them?" Lily asked, her scientific mind making connections in her own way. "Exactly like that," Marcus answered, touched by his daughter's perspective. "Love helps everything grow stronger." Violet, who had been unusually quiet during this conversation, suddenly pointed to Guardian. "Did other Mummy send Guardian to protect us too?" The question brought smiles to both parents' faces. "Guardian found you first," Victoria explained. "He was watching over you even before Papa discovered you, and he's been part of our family ever since." The conversation sparked a new family tradition. Each evening before bedtime, the girls would visit the memory garden corner of the greenhouse to say goodnight to Eleanor's photograph. They began calling the 3 stars visible from the greenhouse window "Our Other Mummy's Lights," creating their own mythology about how she watched over them from above. Guardian, as if understanding the significance of these moments, would accompany each girl as they said their good nights, offering gentle purrs of comfort when needed. His presence remained a constant reminder of the night that had brought them all together. As their 3rd birthday approached, Marcus and Victoria planned a celebration that would honor all aspects of their unique family. The party would be filmed as part of Marcus's television series, showcasing how food, gardening, and love could unite even the most unusually formed families. The greenhouse was decorated with fairy lights and flowers from Eleanor's research collection. The Golden Spoon's kitchen was prepared for a special cooking segment where each girl would help create a dish inspired by their personalities: Rose's musical meringues, Lily's garden herb bread, and Violet's climbing chocolate fountain. Victoria's multiple birth support group families were invited, creating a community celebration that went beyond just their immediate family. The girls, excited about their roles as both birthday celebrants and television stars, practiced their cooking demonstrations with infectious enthusiasm. Guardian, now wearing a bow tie for the special occasion, though his expression suggested limited patience with this accessory, maintained his usual vigilant watch over the proceedings. His presence in the background of the filming added an extra layer of continuity to their family story. As Marcus and Victoria watched their daughters prepare for their roles in the celebration, they reflected on how far they had come from that rainy night at the restaurant. Their family had grown not just in size but in understanding, creating a legacy that honored both their present joy and the loving sacrifice that had made it possible. As the Wellington triplets approached their 4th birthday, their world expanded in exciting new ways. The success of Marcus's family cooking show had led to the publication of a cookbook featuring recipes developed with and for children. Each recipe included a special note about which of the girls had inspired it, along with tips for cooking with young children. Victoria's multiple birth support program had grown into a nationwide initiative, with several hospitals adopting her protocols. She now divided her time between clinical work and training other healthcare providers, always drawing on her personal experiences while maintaining professional objectivity. The greenhouse had evolved into a magical space that perfectly reflected the family's journey. The girls' individual gardening plots told the story of their developing interests. Rose had created a musical garden, where wind chimes and bamboo stems created melodies in the breeze. Lily's section was meticulously organized with labeled plants and careful observations recorded in her first scientific notebook. Violet had constructed an elaborate vertical garden that allowed her to climb safely after much negotiation with her parents while tending to her plants. Guardian, though moving more slowly now, remained devoted to his charges. He had developed a system of different meows that the family had learned to interpret, one for general mischief, another for potential danger, and a special trill he used only when the girls were doing something particularly praiseworthy. One spring morning, during their regular gardening session, Lily made an observation that sparked a new family conversation. "Mummy," she said, carefully recording notes about her latest plant experiment, "my flowers are different colors than roses and violets, even though we planted the same seeds, just like we're different, even though we're triplets." Victoria was struck by her daughter's insight. The girls had been asking more questions about their unique family situation, showing an increasing awareness of both their similarities and differences. While they clearly understood they were sisters, they were beginning to notice the subtle variations in their appearances and personalities that made them individuals. Marcus, who had been filming a special episode about the greenhouse for his show, captured this moment of discovery. He had made it a priority to document these precious interactions, creating a video diary that paralleled Victoria's written records in their memory books. The television show had unexpectedly become a platform for sharing their family's story with a wider audience. Viewers were drawn to the authentic way the Wellingtons handled their unique situation, celebrating both their daughters' shared heritage and their individual identities. One episode, featuring the girls cooking with recipes inspired by Eleanor's research plants, had particularly resonated with audiences. Rose had helped prepare flour-infused cookies, Lily had demonstrated how to make natural food dyes from plants, and Violet had created an edible garden display that incorporated climbing vegetables. The show's success led to an unexpected but welcome development. Other adoptive families began reaching out to share their stories. The Wellingtons found themselves at the center of a growing community of families who had found each other in unconventional ways. Victoria established a support group specifically for families with adopted multiples, combining her medical expertise with her personal experience. The greenhouse became a meeting place for these gatherings, its peaceful atmosphere providing the perfect setting for sharing experiences and building connections. The girls thrived on these interactions, enjoying the company of other children who had similar family stories. Rose often organized impromptu concerts for the visiting families, while Lily shared her growing botanical knowledge, and Violet led expeditions around the greenhouse's various levels. Guardian, despite his advanced age, remained an integral part of these gatherings. He seemed to have a special sense for children who were feeling nervous or overwhelmed, appearing at just the right moment to offer silent comfort. Parents often commented on his unusual ability to calm anxious children with his steady presence. One afternoon, as the girls helped Marcus prepare for a special filming session, Rose asked a question that demonstrated their growing understanding of their family's uniqueness. "Papa, can we make other mummies' favorite food for the show, so everyone can know about her too?" The request led to a beautiful episode where Marcus and the girls prepared dishes using ingredients from Eleanor's research gardens. Victoria shared stories about Eleanor's work while they cooked, helping viewers understand how love could bridge the gap between past and present. The episode featured the Memory Garden corner, where Eleanor's photograph now sat surrounded by thriving plants from her research. The girls explained in their own words how they had two mothers, one who had given them life and another who was raising them with love. As the family worked together in the kitchen, their natural interaction and obvious love for each other touched viewers deeply. The sight of three little girls carefully preparing food while sharing stories about both their mothers challenged conventional notions of what made a family. Guardian made an unplanned but perfect appearance in the episode's final scene, wandering into the kitchen to check on his charges. His presence served as a reminder of that fateful rainy night, completing the circle of their family's story. The episode ended with a dedication to Eleanor, celebrating her role in creating this extraordinary family. The response from viewers was overwhelming, with many sharing their own stories of unconventional families and the different ways love could manifest itself. The autumn following the girls' 4th birthday brought significant changes to the Wellington family. Marcus's cooking show had evolved into a series focusing on different types of families and their food traditions. Each episode celebrated the diverse ways that love and care could create strong family bonds. Victoria's work with multiple birth families had attracted attention from child development researchers. They were particularly interested in studying how the Wellington triplets had maintained their close bond while developing such distinct personalities. The girls continued to grow and change, their individual interests becoming more pronounced. Rose had started piano lessons, showing a natural talent that delighted her teachers. Lily spent hours in the greenhouse, conducting what she called important plant experiments with careful documentation. Violet had discovered gymnastics, finally finding a proper outlet for her climbing abilities. Guardian, though showing his age, remained a constant presence in their lives. He had adapted his protective duties to match the girls' growing independence, now serving more as a wise observer than an active supervisor. His special corner in the greenhouse had been upgraded with comfortable cushions, allowing him to maintain his watch in comfort. One significant development came when the girls started attending preschool. The decision to place them in the same class or separate them had required careful consideration. After much discussion with their support network of other multiple birth families, Marcus and Victoria decided to keep them together while encouraging their individual interests through after-school activities. The transition to preschool brought new challenges and opportunities. The girls' unique family story became a topic of interest among their classmates, leading to questions that they handled with surprising grace for 4-year-olds. "We have two mummies," Rose explained to her curious classmates during show and tell. "One who gave us life and one who gives us love every day. And we have the best papa and guardian too." The greenhouse continued to be the heart of family life, now incorporating elements of the girls' school learning. Lily's section had become an informal science lab where she conducted experiments with her classmates. Rose used the space for impromptu concerts, the acoustics of the glass structure creating beautiful resonance. Violet had established a vertical exploration course that her gymnastics coach praised for developing balance and coordination. Victoria had created a special education program within her multiple birth support network, helping other families navigate the early school years with twins and triplets. Her approach, combining professional expertise with personal experience, helped many families find their own balance between unity and individuality. Marcus's television show dedicated an episode to the girls' first term at preschool, capturing their preparations for a special presentation about their family. Each girl contributed in her own way. Rose composed a simple melody, Lily prepared a display about their greenhouse, and Violet choreographed a movement piece that told their story through dance. The episode resonated deeply with viewers, particularly those facing their own challenges with school transitions. The Wellingtons received letters from families around the country, sharing their own experiences and thanking them for showing how differences could be celebrated within a loving family. Guardian made several memorable appearances in the episode, including a moment where he helped calm Violet's pre-performance nerves by sitting with her during practice. His steady presence continued to be a source of comfort for all three girls, especially during times of change or stress. One autumn afternoon, as the family worked together in the greenhouse, they made an exciting discovery. A plant from Eleanor's research, which Lily had been carefully tending, produced an unusual bloom. After consulting Eleanor's notes, they realized it was a rare variation she had been working to develop. The discovery led to a special collaboration with the Botanical Research Institute where Eleanor had worked. The girls were thrilled to visit their biological mother's workplace, seeing where she had conducted her groundbreaking research. "She was very clever, wasn't she?" Lily observed, examining Eleanor's laboratory with wide-eyed wonder. "Just like us." The visit inspired a new addition to the greenhouse, a small research area dedicated to continuing Eleanor's work. Each girl had a role in maintaining this special section, helping to preserve and advance their biological mother's legacy. Victoria added detailed accounts of this development to the girls' memory books, noting how their individual reactions to the discovery reflected their personalities. Rose wanted to compose a song about the rare flower, Lily began a detailed study of its growth patterns, and Violet suggested creating a special display that visitors could view from different angles. As the family prepared for their annual autumn gathering in the greenhouse, now a tradition that brought together their extended network of friends and supported families, Marcus and Victoria reflected on how far they had come. "Look at them," Marcus said softly, watching their daughters arrange flowers for the celebration. Each so different, yet so connected. Eleanor would be proud of how they've grown. Guardian, dozing in his special corner, but still alert to his family's activities, offered a contented purr of agreement. The greenhouse glowed with warm light as the sun set, illuminating the thriving plants and the happy family tending them. The girls worked together with practiced ease, their different approaches complementing each other perfectly. Rose hummed while she worked, Lily organized their tools with scientific precision, and Violet added artistic flair to their arrangements. Victoria smiled, capturing the moment in both her memory and her ever-present camera. "They're blooming," she said, "just like everything else in this greenhouse, each in their own way but always together." As the Wellington triplets approached their 5th birthday, their family's story had touched lives far beyond their immediate circle. Marcus's cooking show had evolved into a successful series about diverse families, while Victoria's multiple birth support program had become a model for hospitals nationwide. But it was the everyday moments in their greenhouse and home that truly showed how far they had come. The girls, now confident and articulate preschoolers, had developed their own unique ways of honoring both their birth mother and their family story. Rose had composed a simple but touching melody she called Eleanor's Song, which she practiced diligently on the piano. Lily had started a detailed journal of all the plants in the greenhouse, carefully noting which ones came from her biological mother's research. Violet had created an elaborate picture book of their family story, complete with acrobatic illustrations of Guardian's heroic discovery. Guardian, though now quite elderly, remained the family's faithful protector. He had developed a special talent for anticipating when one of the girls needed emotional support, often appearing at just the right moment with his comforting presence. His advancing age meant he moved more slowly, but his devotion never wavered. One spring morning during their regular greenhouse session, the girls made an announcement that touched both Marcus and Victoria deeply. They wanted to host a special family celebration day at the Golden Spoon, inviting all the families they had met through Victoria's program and Marcus's show. "We can show everyone how to make families like puzzle pieces," Rose explained enthusiastically. "Sometimes they fit together in different ways, but they're still perfect." The idea sparked a flurry of activity. Marcus began planning a menu that would incorporate elements from Eleanor's research plants. Victoria worked with her support group families to organize activities that would celebrate different types of family bonds. The girls threw themselves into preparations with characteristic enthusiasm. Lily designed information cards about the edible flowers and herbs they would use, combining her love of science with her growing interest in teaching others. Rose planned a musical performance that would tell their family's story through song. Violet worked on creating an indoor climbing garden in the restaurant, similar to her beloved greenhouse structures. The preparation for this event led to deeper conversations about family and identity. One evening, as Victoria helped the girls create decorations, Violet asked a question that showed their growing understanding of their unique situation. "Mummy," she said thoughtfully, "is it okay that I love you and other Mummy the same even though I never met her?" Victoria gathered her daughter close, aware of Rose and Lily listening intently. "Love doesn't have limits, sweetheart. Eleanor gave you life and made sure you would have a family to love you. Every time you climb higher, every time Lily discovers something new about plants, every time Rose creates music, that's part of her gift to you." Guardian, who had been dozing nearby, moved to join the family group, offering his own form of comfort and support. His presence always seemed to help during these important conversations, a living link to the night that had brought them all together. The family celebration day became more than just a party. It evolved into a gathering of people whose lives had been touched by the Wellington family's story. Families who had adopted multiples, those who had faced similar challenges, and others who simply believed in the power of love to create bonds stronger than blood, came together to celebrate. The golden spoon was transformed for the occasion. The girls' contributions created an atmosphere that perfectly represented their family's journey. Eleanor's photograph held a place of honor among the displays, surrounded by blooming plants from her research and the girls' own gardening projects. Marcus premiered a special episode of his show, filmed during the preparation for this event. It captured intimate moments of the family working together, the girls explaining their understanding of family in their own words, Victoria sharing wisdom from her years of supporting other families, and touching scenes of Guardian watching over his growing charges. The episode's most powerful moment came when the girls performed Eleanor's song together. Rose played the piano while Lily and Violet accompanied her with simple dance movements they had choreographed. The performance ended with all three girls placing flowers beneath Eleanor's photograph, a gesture that moved many viewers to tears. The success of the celebration led to an annual tradition, with the Golden Spoon hosting similar gatherings for families created through love rather than conventional paths. The Wellington triplets became known as the Greenhouse Girls, inspiring other children to embrace their own unique family stories. Guardian watched all of this with his characteristic calm wisdom, his presence a constant reminder of the night that had started their journey. Though his movements were slower now, his love for his family remained as strong as ever, demonstrated in every gentle purr and watchful gaze. On the evening before the triplets' 5th birthday, Marcus and Victoria sat in their greenhouse, surrounded by the thriving plants that had become such an integral part of their family's story. The girls were inside preparing for their birthday celebration with characteristic enthusiasm, while Guardian dozed contentedly in his special corner. The past 5 years had transformed not just their family, but their entire community. The Golden Spoon had become more than a restaurant. It was now a gathering place for families of all kinds. Victoria's support program had helped countless parents navigate the challenges of raising multiples while celebrating their children's individuality. Marcus's cooking show had evolved into a celebration of family diversity, showing how love could create bonds as strong as any biological connection. Rose, Lily, and Violet had grown into confident, compassionate young girls who understood their unique story and celebrated it. Each had developed her own way of honoring both their present family and their biological mother's legacy. The birthday celebration they had planned reflected this beautifully. Rather than a traditional party, the girls had asked for a family garden festival that would combine all the elements of their story: food, music, science, and most importantly, love. The Golden Spoon's garden had been transformed for the occasion. Rose had worked with Marcus to create a menu featuring edible flowers and herbs from Eleanor's research. Lily had prepared scientific demonstrations about plant growth and family trees. Violet had designed an interactive garden experience that encouraged exploration and discovery. Guardian, though moving more slowly with age, maintained his protective watch over the festivities. His presence served as a living reminder of that rainy night 5 years ago when fate had brought them all together. During the celebration, Victoria unveiled a surprise she had been working on for months, a book that chronicled their family's journey. Titled 3 Little Stars, it combined Eleanor's research notes, photographs of the girls growing up, and stories from their unique journey as a family. "This is for you," Victoria told her daughters as they gathered around her. "So you'll always know how many people have loved you from the very beginning." The book included contributions from everyone who had been part of their story. Marcus's observations about how food had brought them together, notes from families they had helped through Victoria's program, and even pressed flowers from their greenhouse. As the girls looked through the book together, their different personalities shone through. Rose immediately wanted to create songs about each chapter. Lily carefully read every scientific note, while Violet was drawn to the photographs showing their family's evolution. The celebration reached its peak as the girls performed their now traditional Eleanor's song, but with a new verse they had composed themselves. The lyrics spoke of two mothers' love, a father's devoted care, and a cat who had helped bring them all together. Guardian, sensing the importance of the moment, made his way to the center of the gathering. Though his fur was now gray and his steps slower, his eyes still held the same protective love that had led him to watch over 3 abandoned babies on a rainy night. As the sun set on their celebration, casting a golden glow through the greenhouse glass, Marcus and Victoria watched their daughters share their story with the gathered friends and family. Each girl spoke in her own way about what made their family special. "We're like the plants in our greenhouse," Lily explained, using her favorite scientific metaphor. "Different types growing together, making each other stronger. We have twice as much love," Rose added, "because we have 2 mummies who loved us in different ways." "And the best papa and guardian," Violet concluded, reaching down to stroke their faithful cat's fur. The evening ended with a quiet family moment in the greenhouse. Marcus and Victoria sat with their daughters among the blooming plants that represented both Eleanor's legacy and their own family's growth. Guardian settled among them, his purring a gentle soundtrack to their contentment. "5 years ago," Marcus said softly, "I thought finding you was the miracle. But watching you grow, seeing you become your own people while staying so connected, that's been the real miracle." Victoria added another page to their family book, capturing this moment with both words and photographs. "Your story is still being written," she told the girls. "Every day you add new chapters with your love, your curiosity, and your courage." As the stars appeared above the greenhouse roof, the 3 girls pointed out their special stars, the ones they had always imagined were Eleanor watching over them. Guardian lifted his head to look up as well, as if he too could see the connection between earth and sky, past and present, that had created this extraordinary family. The Wellington family's story had come full circle, from a rainy night discovery to a celebration of unconditional love. They had shown their community that family could be defined not by conventional boundaries, but by the love that brought and kept people together. Rose, Lily, and Violet had grown into their names and their story, each contributing their own unique gifts to their family's tapestry. They carried within them Eleanor's scientific brilliance, Victoria's nurturing heart, Marcus's creative spirit, and Guardian's protective love. As the family gathered for one last goodnight song in their beloved greenhouse, their voices blending with the natural symphony of the evening, they celebrated not just 5 years together, but the endless possibilities that lay ahead. Their story had touched countless lives, showing that love in all its forms was the strongest force for creating and nurturing family bonds. Guardian, ever faithful, led the way back to the house, his tail held high like a proud flag. The girls followed, chattering about their plans for tomorrow and all the days to come, while Marcus and Victoria brought up the rear, their hearts full of gratitude for the unexpected journey that had made them a family.